Hello, I'm Ruth, and today I'm going to be talking about two mystery thrillers that are based on the 1936 book The Wheel Spins by Ethelina White. In both films, a young socialite called Iris goes on a train in Europe and meets a nice old lady called Miss Froy, who is also English. Miss Froy looks after her because Iris is feeling unwell, and they have lunch together. When they go back to the carriage, Iris falls asleep, and when she wakes up, Miss Froy is gone. She asks the other passengers where Miss Froy has gone, but they all say there was never another English lady. She goes about the train trying to find someone who will remember her, but they all say she never existed. A young man helps her, and she has to uncover whether she is slowly turning mad or if there is some sort of conspiracy. The 1938 black and white version is a classic film. It was directed by the master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, and it has been voted a couple of times in the top 40 greatest British films ever to be made. It takes a lot of creative license with the book. Iris is a much nicer character. She's got this nice group of girlfriends who have fun together, and she can sort of mourn with them that she's going on the train in order to meet her fiancé, who she's clearly not in love with, but has to marry in order to get on in life. Her love interest is not called Max, he's called Gilbert, and Gilbert is played by Michael Redgrave, part of the great acting family. Michael Redgrave's daughter is Vanessa Redgrave, the narrator from Call the Midwife, and her daughter was Natasha Richardson, who played the mum in Parent Trap. Gilbert is really charming, he's musical, him being musical comes in handy later on, and he's always making these really funny jokes. Like when he sees that Iris is in trouble, he says that his father taught him never to leave a woman in distress, and that his father took this so far as to marry his mother. But it never feels patronising because Iris really matches him in wit. Like they have banter together, it's almost half thriller, half rom-com. And you actually bind to their relationship a lot, despite it being this sort of one train journey, because they go from disliking each other to being friends to being in a sort of romance, and they're almost like a married couple by the end. So I really love Gilbert. You also really fall in love with Miss Froy. She's kind of like Miss Marple, your grandmother. She's very chatty and she's very generous. Like you see at the start being generous to these two gentlemen who just can't get a meal in the hotel. And their whole thing throughout the whole film is that they are obsessed with the cricket scores. She's also generous to Iris, which is how they end up being friends. The English people in this film are very keep calm and carry on, like, oh no, I've been shot, oh dear, poor show. But they also have different personalities. Like there's a lot more gunfighting and fisticuffs in this version of the story, and they all have different ideas about how they should tackle the people that they suspect are bad. So it's quite an interesting psychological exploration of personalities as well. The 2013 version is very much more closely based on the book. This is the first thing I saw Tuppence Middleton in, and I instantly loved her acting style. She's a really good actress in period dramas. She's talked openly about having OCD, and that's why she hasn't really up until recently done stage acting. She finds it easier to manage with screen acting. She's very good at portraying there being more underneath the surface than what the character is saying, which is good for this role because Iris is an awful person. So her sort of eyes saying, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or oh, I could be a better person, is really important for this role. She's very rude to everyone. She sort of speaks slowly and patronisingly to people who don't speak English, even though she's the one who is in their country. It's very different to the previous Iris because the previous Iris had an understanding with the hotel staff. Like she used her wealth to bribe people and get her own way, but it wasn't because she thought less of them. It's because, it mutually benefited them. Where in this version, she kind of treats everyone like dirt. She starts the film off hanging out with her rich friends who live very vacuous lives, and they don't even really like her very much. They're not very supportive of her and don't really care about her. And I think there's a bit of pathos in that she mentions she has no family, so therefore there is no one who really loves her. But I think also because she's so horrible to everyone, there isn't enough pathos to justify that. She does start becoming a better person because this guy altruistically helps her onto the train, like because she has supposedly got heat stroke. He gets all her bags together and kind of throws her onto the train, and then she turns back and thanks him, which I don't think she would have done before. So that is the start of her becoming a better person. And maybe kindness breeds kindness, and that's why she's kind to Miss Froy later on. Miss Froy really isn't in it very much. She is just this sort of more middle-aged, kind of kooky dog lover who happens to meet Iris on the train. Everything is very much from Iris's perspective. And I think Iris being a really rude person really hurts her relationship with Max, because she's just mean to him the whole time until she suddenly decides that she likes him. And in the older version, she did tell him to go away. She told Gilbert to go away, but then she comes back out to him and is like, oh no, you were right. And they kind of make up, and people actually notice that he is the person that she most trusts. Wherever in this version, he very much is like a puppy. She calls him a puppy, and you can't really disagree with it, because before he was following her because he thinks she's pretty, he was following the professor because he was learning from him. So he doesn't really have his own personality, and you feel like, unlike the previous version, they're only together because they're kind of young and attractive people, whether before it was because they had a lot in common, they were both witty and clever and could have fun and be a team. But in this version, it's very much just he's there for Iris. She is the main character. And you kind of get why the professor, who is in this version, doesn't like her. She is supposed to be dislikable. So Alex Jennings plays the professor, and he kind of does the role which Gilbert did early on, of not believing Iris and kind of challenging her. Gilbert didn't really think she was a hysterical woman. He's not disrespectful like that. In this, the professor definitely shows off a bit of misogyny in just dismissing what Iris is saying as an emotional, attention-seeking woman. But at the same time, he does help her because they're both English. It's good in a way because she is getting challenged, and that makes her story more difficult. The whole feeling is very psychological thriller because everything is from her point of view. It's very claustrophobic on the train. You feel like there's no room to move. It's not shot nice and airily like in the previous version. The passengers have changed a bit as well. Instead of the sort of cricket-obsessed men, there is this pious couple who are concerned about their son. There is sort of similarly the adulterous couple, who the woman is being played by the man because he just wants an affair, whether she thought that he would leave his wife for her, so that's why they're lying. But I don't think that changes the story too much. Basically, they're just all passengers who have their own individual reasons for keeping quiet. I'm not sure which version I would recommend more, maybe leaning towards the older version because it's more warm and exciting rather than cold and thrilling, but they're both great films, and I'd definitely recommend a watch of either.